Well, the big question is, should I buy a property now or should I wait? And you know what? This is on everybody's mind. I have investors calling me because they can smell blood in the water, and that blood is coming pretty soon, and they want to buy. So, when is a good time to buy? Should we wait or should we buy now? Let's talk about that. Let me go to my very first screen and let's give it some questions here. I personally think if there's nothing wrong with you waiting, I think this is only going to get better as a buyer. I think prices are going to come down. I think you're going to get more selection. You're going to get much more motivated sellers that are going to want to get rid of these properties. And I think there's a tremendous buying opportunity coming. And I believe it's going to be some of the builders are going to want to start getting rid of some of this inventory that they're building that they don't want. They bought these properties for somebody, and that somebody is no longer closing. Now, I've shared this with you on many of my videos. Now, this is the home builder sentiment, and I'm going to tell you, it has crashed. It has not rebounded. It has just like gone down to the basement. This was in May. It's gotten even worse. No one is buying a new home anytime soon, particularly a first-time home buyer. They are just out of the market. Scares the living daylights out of most of the builders because they've got a lot of properties in the ground. Here in Phoenix, we have thousands and thousands of properties under construction, and they were built for a buyer. And of course, that was built, they were sold 12, 15, 18 months ago, and they still haven't been delivered. And look what's happening. New home sales crashed 12% month over month, but year over year, comparing it to last year, down almost 30% in sales. 30% drop in sales. That is very, very scary for a builder because it's not gradual. It's just like someone just came in and closed the door and nothing is happening with that. Look at this. This is why I think we're going to have a opportunity to buy some properties. Now, once you start getting supply, now this is supply, not inventory. So now we're starting to bring new properties to market. They're actually increasing the supply because a lot of the buyers that they sold these properties to are refusing to close. We're at a 10.9 month new home supply nationally. Now, that's not the same as in Florida, Texas, and Arizona, because that's where the big demand is at, but it is heading towards the worst since 2009. And we got to 2009, we were just over a year's supply of new homes. So we're pretty doggone close to that, and it's growing. Now, not only are sales in new homes collapsing, but existing homes are collapsing as well. I just got this a few days ago. This is for July. And it's 22.5% decline in home sales in July 2022. And then, of course, we've had a lot of inventory come to market because a lot of people are thinking, oh, I can put it on the market in a week or two, I'll have it sold. Well, now it's going to take you a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months to sell the properties. We're getting a lot of people that are bringing those sales forward as well. They're thinking, I don't want to sell till September, October, November. They're getting it on the market, so inventory certainly has increased and home sales have slowed. So we're getting a lot of opportunities just building. We're going to have a really, really wonderful buying opportunity. Now, this is what's really concerning me here is the pending home sales. Now, this is ones that actually sold. So they're in escrow. They've been bought. We've negotiated them. And they're collapsing. Look at this. They're collapsing. We're having pendings. The pendings, now this is existing home sale pendings, are just falling. So nationally, we had 63,000 single-family homes that had already been sold, fell out of escrow last month, 1 month, which tells me there's a lot of fear in the market, just a tremendous amount of fear. I just got this, 3-4 days ago. So this is absolutely brand new statistic, kind of scary. And let me just let this sink in for just a second for you so that you can understand where I'm going with this. Now, there's new home sales, there's permits, but when you really get the housing starts, that's where they literally go out, they pulled the permit, they're buying, the buyer's been into the design center. They've got everything ready. They've made final plans and are physically going out there, staking the ground. They're going to start pouring concrete. That's dropped year over year. Housing starts across the nation 18.5% year over year, 10% seasonally adjusted, but 18.5% year over year. Multifamily followed right along, 10% year over year as well. So that means that housing units actually building, it's starting to slow down. You know, we can still sales, but the builders are being very, very cautious about actually physically starting any new construction. Now, when we start talking about contraction and start talking about the economy itself, PMI services are down, so they're actually in contraction territory. So, according to them, the economy is actually contracting. Now, anything over 50 is considered that the economy is still expanding. So, manufacturing has declined to 51.3, still barely above expansion, but it's coming down and coming down quickly. So it goes to our thesis that I think we're heading into a recession. Now we're going to have the news coming in very soon, probably tomorrow from Jackson Hole, but it's scaring the bejeebies out of a lot of people. And this is what we're looking at. So I believe that we're heading into a recession. We may be just entering into it just now. I don't think we've been in a recession, but what we have been in is a growth downturn beyond a shadow of a doubt, because here in Q2, we are at 12% GDP. Q1 of 2022, we're at 3.5%. We're going to get Q2 pretty quickly here. I'm going to guess we're probably at zero or below zero. So pretty doggone close to contraction. If we're not there, we're certainly heading into it. So the trajectory is down, and you have a pretty steep trajectory. So the growth rate downturn is already in progress. Now, here's one of my concerns. I'm going to show you a chart in just a second, but really bad recessions are always preceded by a real estate downturn, because real estate is a separate asset class, not stocks and bonds. So real estate is an absolute separate asset class, and I think we're going to cycle completion. If it is, it's going to be one of the earliest cycle completions we've had in all of in a really, really long time. As far as I can go back, I can't find one that's been this short, but it sure has all the earmarks of the fact that we're getting a cycle completion. And when we start going down and the real estate asset class starts to go down prior to a recession, that means that recession is going to be prolonged and deep and pretty tough. So already we're seeing average hourly earnings declining. Inflation, of course, everybody knows about inflation. Inflation is at a 40-year high. This reminds me very, very similar to the 70s. Now, I was just starting in real estate in the 70s. Very, very, very similar to it. So in the 70s, came out of a recession. Remember 1974, terrible recession, like the 2020 recession, came out of that recession. Real estate took off. Rates came down. People, they got a little bit of stimulus. And all through the 70s, people could not get enough properties. They just could not buy enough. They just kept buying, buying, and buying. You get into late 79, it just stopped. And then Paul Volcker came along and put the final coup de grace on it and raised interest rates to 22%. Very, very similar to what we have now, 2020 recession. You had a big boom in housing. All of a sudden, home prices and home sales start to stall, and you've got rising interest rates. Looks like a duplicate to me, and that was a very, very, very nasty recession. So warning on all of this. And here it is. This comes from the Federal Reserve Electronic Data System. You can see 1982, which I just talked about, 1990. Now, again, here in Phoenix, we were starting to slow down in 1987 and 1988. And of course, you all remember 2008 recession. But housing had really peaked at 2006, and it was really rolling over right before the 2008. Now, 2020, real estate never really had much of a downturn. Let me go to my next slide. Here is my concern. And this is why, I would say you need to really think that maybe you do, if you get an opportunity to buy something that's good, and we have a long-term horizon on this, that maybe we should consider buying. If you look at my last video, and please take a look at our last couple of videos, we've been talking about abundance. We've been talking about the US dollar. So the US dollar is really heading towards a peak. It's going to really put turmoil throughout the world. whenever there's turmoil, everybody runs to the US dollar. So we're running right like 108, 109. Dr. Nenner thinks we could go up to 112, 113, 114 pretty quickly. Now, it's not unprecedented. We've been up to 122. If it really, really gets bad in the world, everybody will go to the US dollar. They want to buy everything they possibly can. They'll be buying rentals in the United States so that they can get income expressed in US dollars. They're going to like that. That's really a very good thing if you're a foreign investor. And it's a safe haven. So you just have to expect that that's going to happen. So we could go to 122, 123, would not be unprecedented, but it cycles. And it never stays there. Nothing ever stays there. We all were scared to death of gasoline, and gasoline ran up and it peaked and it came back down a little bit. Now, it never went back to where it was, and I think we're going to have gasoline go up significantly higher from here. That's just my personal forecast. So what happens if we have the US dollar really, really drop? If it cycles down, and anyone that's been in business for any kind of length of time knows that nothing stays the same. And what if the US dollar went down to 70? It's been there before. It's at 110 now, going to 120. What if it dropped 50 points? Well, that would mean that all kinds of things become very, very expensive, and inflation gets out of your control. And this is my major concern for you. So if you have a 1031 exchange, let's say you're selling something in California, you're selling something in Minneapolis, you're selling something in Seattle, and you want to move it to one of the great markets of Florida, Texas, and Arizona, you certainly want to do that. Your 1031 is fairly safe. It makes perfect business sense to do that. You have money that's already at risk. It's inflated dollars, buying into inflated dollars, and you have a tax ramifications if you don't finish the transaction. If you don't do a 1031 exchange, you're going to suffer a reasonable tax event. So a lot of mitigating circumstances. So a 1031 exchange it's like a no-brainer. You certainly want to go ahead and do that. What if you're a first-time home buyer? Well, I think rents are going to go right through the ceiling. It's just been historical. That's typically what happens. Supply stops coming in, particularly in the growth markets here in Florida, Texas, and Arizona. We're already constrained on housing. We have a housing shortage here in Maricopa County. I think we're missing about 150,000 homes. Right now, we could use that in a shortage. So if the builders stop bringing product to market, we're still going to have a shortage. People are going to vie for these rentals, and rentals will go up. Which, if you're a first-time home buyer, you are a tenant, and your rent will probably continue to go up, and you'll get none of the benefits of home ownership. No tax benefits at all, and there's a huge, enormous intrinsic value of owning your own property, particularly if you have a family. There is just enormous benefits for you to do that. And if you're looking at a time horizon 3, 4, 5 years, it's a no-brainer. So what does that mean for us if we want to go ahead and put some new money to work? I think we're going to get some tremendous opportunities coming to us. Again, there's always situationals that we can buy these properties. Someone's having a problem. Someone needs to sell. We can get a discount on a property. We can get a really, really good property at a very good price. If we're going to hold these properties, again, just like a first-time home buyer, going to hold for 3, 5 years. And most of my clients, we hold for 5 or 10 years, maybe sometimes 20 years. I think it will become immaterial to us as long as it's cash flowing well and it's in a really good growth market for ourselves. If you're in Florida, Texas, and Arizona, I think you're going to be just fine. Can there be some volatility and fluctuation in price? Absolutely, positively. Now, I think we're going to have a great buying opportunity coming to us very, very soon. So I would say we're probably looking at 60 or 90 days, and we're going to know if the Federal Reserve raises rates in September. I think you're going to have a severe recession if they raise rates again in November, December timeframe. I think we're going to go beyond a severe recession and have a really, really hard time. That being said, I think it's still going to behoove us to continue accumulating properties because with inflation coming, and I think we could have really severe inflation in a year and a half to 2 years if the US dollar starts to cycle down. And I think that's probably a foregone conclusion that it will do that. That means that all the asset classes, anything that's a real asset, gold, silver, agricultural, forest products, food, soybeans, wheat, Anything that's in real, stamps, of course, and anything that, rare books, rare wine, all that will again become very, very valuable because it's going to be real things. I think that will probably come to pass. Now, these are my numbers. If you need me, you're welcome to reach me at any one of those. You're welcome to, we'll talk to your financial advisor. Certainly get your spouse involved in anything that you're doing. If you're a baby boomer, you really need to talk to us so we can maybe put our heads together and come up with something real good. In the meantime, my very, very best to you. Bye bye now.